Hi, everyone. We have a special show for you this week. We have our course preview for Ödyssey Swimrun Casco Bay. Cue the rock flute.
Welcome to the Löw Tide Böyz, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 76 of the show. On this week's show, we have everything you're ever going to want to know about Ödyssey Swimrun's Casco Bay race. We raced this race back in 2018, and we're really super stoked to be going back this year to race the long course again. We'll be focusing on the long course description for this show, but don't worry, you short course racers, because the long course and the short course essentially are the same course. The short course just starts on a different island than the long course. So no worries there. Everyone who's racing this event is going to get everything they need to know.
Now, hear from race director Lars Finanger about an overview of Ödyssey Swimrun Casco Bay.
Thanks, Chipper and Chris at the Löw Tide Böyz for inviting us to share in the course preview today for the 5th annual Cole Classic, named after race founder Jeff Cole. And it's also known as the Ödyssey Casco Bay Swimrun. It's also been called the Casco Bay Island Swimrun. Whatever you decide to call it, it's the first swimrun that took place in the United States, and it's certainly one of the most challenging out there still. But today we'll be going through both the long and the short course races and giving you some idea of what to expect and also how to make your final preparations for race day.
So that was Lars kind of teeing it off for us. We're going to be hearing more from Lars, more from Matt Hurley, more from John Stevens, more from the Boston Red Sox, Bronwyn and Greg. There's a lot of people who came together to help us put this together. And, Casco is a challenge because, Chipper, as you know, the course has changed every year since 2016.
Yes, it has. And it is one of the first ones, as Lars mentioned there, and you'll probably hear again, is that it was the first kind of European-style to low, island-to-island, point-to-point swim run in the United States.
Yeah, and, that's part of the allure of the whole thing. And, this race was the brainchild of legendary race director Jeff Cole. And Jeff and Lars partnered up to put this event on 5 years ago, and the rest is really swimrun history in the U.S. Unfortunately and tragically, Jeff passed away in 2018, and Casco Bay was renamed the Cole Classic in his honor, as you heard Lars say. And I'm pretty sure that Jeff would be super stoked with how the event has grown and how the sport of swimrun has expanded in the U.S.
Absolutely. Well, with that prelude, let's get right into the course preview for Casco Bay.
All right, everyone. This is the tour guide section of the program. Casco
Open
Bay.
Your brochures to page 7.
Yeah, the Chamber of Commerce has not funded this podcast at all. The Casco Bay Islands are situated just off the coast of Portland, Maine. The islands are relatively easy to get to via ferry or water taxi service, and there's plenty of activities to do for the whole family. Most swimrunners will be staying on the mainland in the city of Portland, which is a great spot with lots of awesome restaurants, lobster shacks, donut shops.
Too many donut shops.
Yeah, too many tourist destinations. We definitely ate our way through town before the race. Probably should have done it after the race, but when we were there a few years ago, we really enjoyed the food. And getting to Portland's pretty straightforward. You can either fly directly into Portland, they have a major airport there, or Manchester, New Hampshire, or fly into Boston and drive up. All pretty doable for people.
Very doable. Great place for the families as well. You feel comfortable traveling and all that stuff right now. Great place, great weather, nice community there. Now, for the main event, the course overview.
Yes.
We couldn't help ourselves on the puns.
Yeah, Maine.
So for a general overview of the Casco Bay course, we asked Lars to really share his take on the course and what athletes can expect out there before we really break it down into a leg-by-leg breakdown for everyone. So here's Lars.
A few of the expectations that you can have going into race day, you know, what to look for out there in terms of course markings, what to find at the aid stations, what to expect out there in the water. we'll go through a few of those very briefly. So at Packet Pickup, we give every athlete who signs up a reusable cup. This is something that you can use at the aid stations. We don't have paper cups out there on the course to keep down on the waste aspect, but we give you this reusable cup at Packet Pickup, so you'll use that at the aid stations. We'll have Precision Hydration, their 1,000 electrolyte replacement formula out there to drink. We will have a gel out there at the aid stations as well, and some form of solid food at most of the aid stations. The water, our safety support is a small army, and you'll see this out there. We've got so many fantastic volunteers who come out in kayaks and safety boats to provide safe passages for everyone. The Coast Guard comes out and provides a safety perimeter of a couple hundred yards so that no recreational boats, penetrate that course line. But then, as what you'll see as a racer is most likely some of our safety boats, and also kayaks nearby. And then once you're on the course, we talked about the pink teardrop flags that will identify the swim exits. You'll also see strobe lights that will be new this year to also be used as beacons to go towards on the swims. And then inside the trails for guiding, flagging, we use brightly colored ribbon to show you that you're on the right way while running. And then for any major intersection, we use a sign that will be planted into the ground and giving a directional arrow which way to turn. We'd like to think that, across 10 islands that this race is, extremely well marked. But at the end of the day, you do have to, lean on your teammate, lean on those other racers who are around you. If there's a confusing spot, don't assume that just because the people in front of you are going away that's the correct way. Make sure that you use and implement heads-up racing and that you're making the best decisions for you and your teammate. Just to go over the golden rule of swimrun one last time, this is a sport where we do look out for one another out there on the race course. There are so many potentially difficult and challenging situations out there on this Casco Bay course that if you see another athlete or team in distress, please, signal to some of our safety support out there on the race to assist that team. Maybe take a couple of minutes, slow down a couple of minutes to see if another athlete is doing okay. That really runs through the veins and the DNA of our sport, and it's something that we feel very, very proud about, that our athletes are such helpful and willingly willing and able to help people. So thank you for that. We can't be more excited to have you guys join us again. It was such a challenging year last year to not have the race, but we can't wait to be back out in Portland and the Casco Bay Islands this August. We'll see you soon. And Chipper and Chris, thank you so much.
That was super helpful. I love the discussion about the DNA of swimrun. We're all in this together. We're all getting through it. But before we break down the Casco Bay course, there's a couple caveats that we need to put out there. If this is your first time doing swimrun or if it's your first time doing Casco Bay, the course changes every year. So we're going to try to be and it might even change on race morning. We're going to try to be as general as possible about the specific islands that the participants will be crossing and all that stuff, so that you can reference them for future years, hopefully, if they do the race in a different order or something. We'll also have to say that all of the mileage ends in ish, because it's not an exact. Yeah, it's not an exact science. So when they're saying it's going to be 17 miles of running, 17-ish. So you just need to embrace that ambiguity as we go through this, because
could be 16, could be 18, could be 19.
Exactly. So, Chipper, why don't you break down the distances that folks are going to be doing?
Yes. So the Casco Bay long course clocks in at a total of 21.65-ish miles, and that's with 17-ish miles of running and about 4.65-ish miles of swimming.
And if you're playing the drinking game, you know what to do.
Start drinking. And for our yard and meter minded folks, that's 7,465-ish meters, 8,164-ish yards of swimming.
It's a big day.
That's a big day. So be ready that this is going to take several hours.
Yes.
So just be prepared for that. And the short course, there's going to be 12.1-ish total miles of racing, with 10 of those being running and 2.1 or so being swimming, which is 3,400 meters of swimming, or about 3,718-ish yards.
Yeah, and the short course starts on Long Island, which is run 7 of the long course. So athletes who are, racing the short course can skip up to that section or just listen, get a snack, jump back in when it's time for us to chat about Long Island and onward. And we actually recommend folks, as you're listening to this, pull up the course map, because it'll help you kind of orient and get a sense of where you're going to be on the course, as we have a couple experts doing a course leg by leg break. I mean,
the best of the best.
Capital E.
I would put caps lock on that experts.
Yeah.
It's
like
just
yelling like, experts!
Experts! They're experts. So
Yes.
we were lucky enough to have course experts walk you through the course with us instead of us. So joining us for this
non-experts,
portion,
that would be us.
We are non-experts at this course. Joining us for this portion of the show are Coach John Stevens. He's a multi-sport coach with Purple Patch Fitness. He's also the race director for Casco Bay and course designer. And additionally, Matt Hurley of Black Sheep Endurance Project. He's a multi-sport coach and co-founder of the Black Sheep Endurance Project with his wife, Lauren. Both former guests of the show, so check those episodes out if you'd like to hear more about those two individuals. They have raced and won all 4 editions of this Swimrun Casco Bay. So we can't think of a better duo to walk us through the course than these two. So, without further ado, we're going to hand the reins over to John Stevens and Matt Hurley.
So I've got John here, my partner and co-owner of Casco Bay. So if there's anyone with an inside track, it's him. So totals, obviously Casco Bay it's swim heavy. We do expect some strong currents. This race favors swimmers. There's almost 5 miles of swimming and about 17 miles of running. Most of the running in this is flat and somewhat fast. There's one really technical rock scramble, but the rest of this is pretty straightforward. We're going to we're going to island hop section by section here. The start is on Peaks. I'll let John take us through that in the first swim.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Matt. So Peaks Island is that first island of the race. And that opens up on some kind of paved road and dirt road that'll kind of loop through some trail. And again, the start of the race is going to be pretty quick, as people are going to be kind of able to get up and go pretty fast. You're going to want to kind of stay with the pack on that. And that leads into the first swim over to Cushing Island, which is a 900-yard swim or thereabouts, with some pretty strong current that'll be pushing you left to right as you're going to be battling an incoming tide most of the day. So that's one where you really are going to have to sight well on that to make that swim across, especially with that type of current.
And that's on your first swim, right, John?
Yep, that's that first swim, and that takes us to Cushing Island, which is a pretty cool run through a fort. You've got about a little over 2 miles of running, mostly dirt road. So again, it's some dirt road, a little bit of elevation, but that's that opportunity for the people that want to, for the runners that are not so strong at swimming. This is going to be one of those opportunities for them to kind of open it up a little bit early in the race and make up for that first 900-yard swim. And that goes right into another 900-yard swim. And this is where it gets kind of tight. So 900-yard swim to House Island, super short run on House Island that goes through the fort right into immediately a 1,300-yard swim over to Little Diamond. And it's not really a strong current swim, but one that it's pretty long. And you're coming off of 2 900-yard swims before that, so your arms are going to be feeling it early in the race by this point.
Yeah, and make sure to pace yourself because the longest swim of the day is still coming up right after Great Island. So, again, start on peak. You got a 2-mile flat, fast run. You're going to go across, battle some incoming tides, left to right, cross Cushing, another big swim, almost 1,000 meters, another big swim after a short run. Straight shot across Great Diamond Island. John, if I'm right, we enter at the dock, right? And it's a little bit of an uphill.
So we'll come into Little Diamond, right at the dock, and there'll be an aid station there, and then it's straight up the hill. So you come out of that big swim, and you got to go up for a minute, and straight across Little and Great Diamond. And there is a sandbar in between those two, which I'm pretty sure for 80 to 90% of the people out there, that should be a run across that sandbar. So that really kind of lengthens run 4 out to be another couple of miles, mostly on dirt road. Not too much elevation gain after that first hill. And that takes you right through a long run on Great Diamond and into a short, little, tiny swim straight across to Cow Island.
Yeah, and there is an aid station there, right?
There is, yep. So there's going to be an aid station getting in, going over to Cow Island. And then from Cow Island, you enter what you just mentioned there, Matt, that longest swim of the day, which is just a little bit further than that other long swim. This one close to a mile, 1,400 yards in that range, over to Long Island. And a little insider tip here from us that we realized, I think, a couple years ago is that swim over to Long, you're swimming directly into the rising sun. So if it's a sunny day, you're going to be blinded by that sun right in your face.
Yeah, and John, do you expect any currents on that swim? Because it is long, and I'm sure it's going to push you one way or the other.
Yeah, for sure. That long swim over to Long Island is going to push you again this time from right to left with that incoming tide. And it's one of those you're not going to really feel the current much until you get close to Long Island. And as you get closer to the island, you're going to start realizing that current is pushing you stronger and stronger to your left. So you're going to have to kind of compensate for that as you come into the beach.
Great, and this takes us to Long Island, and this will be the start of the short course as well, right, John?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, and so when we come on here, there's going to be water when you get out of this swim. It looks like this is a 2-mile run, if I'm not mistaken, right, John?
So I think the first run there is going to be about 1.5 miles, and that takes us back to Vale Island. So I can let you talk about the short swim over to Vail, which is the super.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So shorter run over to Vail, and this is a nice little hop because you're going to get out of this big swim. You're going to get just enough time to rest your arms. You're going to run, across Long Island, and then you're back in, and you can actually really. John and I in the past have really pushed this swim because it's just maybe a 1/4 mile swim depending on the tide, and then you're on Vale Island, and this is a chance for people to either get very hurt or make up some time or lose some time. It's a rock scramble. It's really going to favor people nimble and quick on their feet. John and I like to stay as high as we can to the rock line and sort of pick our lines. I do recommend staying lower to the ground because it is very, very technical and, just quite honestly, pretty easy to injure yourself out there if you fall. So Vale Island is fun. It's kind of one of the hallmarks of the Casco Bay. Probably see it on a lot of the pictures.
From there, you come off of Vail, and it's a shorter swim over to a sandbar, and it's a little deceiving because you've got this short swim that goes over to the sandbar, and I believe it's like a 250-meter swim. Then you hit this sandbar, and you're up on your feet, and then you're back in the water again. So it's in essence, that run is negligible. I mean, you're up and you're out of the water for 30 seconds, if that, and then you're right into swim number 8, which is again, 850, 900 meters. So in essence, that's really a 1,000-meter swim because you're not really out of the water that long on that sandbar. And that is a deceivingly long swim. So you kind of make that swim over to what's called the nubble, and you're climbing out on the rocks and kind of just bellying yourself up on these rocks to get out on that swim there. And that takes you to the back half of Long Island, which actually has some really nice trail running through it. Not super technical, but technical enough to where you want to be paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah, I always remember that swim of just being very, very tired at the end of the race. My arms are jelly and just surviving. So yeah, then we're going to run across the rest of the Long Island of the back half. We're going to cross over to Little Schabebank. So this is swim 9, and that's about 640 meters on the map. John, do we expect any tides here?
Yep, that's another big big current place right there. So especially front pack, mid pack athletes will find that one really pushing from right to left. I think you remember, Matt, in the past, we do that in reverse, and there's this yellow lobster boat, and you always think you're swimming in front of it, and you always end up swimming around the back of it because the tide just like throws you through there. So you really, really have to aim high on that one because you're going to get pushed through. And then the same after that little run on Little Schabebank, and there's that sandbar between Little Schabebank and Great Schabebank, and the current can really be moving through there too. And you'll find that there's some places on that sandbar that are shallower. So depending when you go across there on the race, you might be able to wade across that, or you might be stuck, swimming against or battling a current through there. And it's really dependent on the person. There was one year, I think, Matt, you were running and I was swimming, and you just ended up dragging me.
Yeah, I remember that. So that takes us, what, John, to the last
island. Yeah. This is kind of a new part of the course this year where we're going to have some trail running. This is the longest run of the race right here towards the end, and it's 4.5 miles, where basically you're going to be doing some trail to start, and then you're going to hit a little bit of road, then you're going to hit a little bit more trail. It's one of those runs that's a little bit of a nice mix of everything, and it's a kind of a cool way to finish the race in that you've got 4.5 miles that's going to let those runners make up some time. So the run strong teams are really going to be able to make up some time there, but then the swimmers have this little advantage on the end where you come off that 4+ mile run into a 650 meter swim, a super short run of less than a mile, and then another 500 meter swim that'll take you to the very last run, which is across kind of some rocks and some soft sand. So there's nothing like finishing a race when you're completely beat up and having to run through soft sand to get to that finish line.
And so that takes us to the end. Thanks for joining us, John. I appreciate it. We'll see y'all out there. Who's ever racing, come say hi.
Well, Chipper, that was a pretty comprehensive course, leg by leg breakdown by the person,
best in the business.
Yeah, the person who designed the course and also happened to win it every time it's happened, and also his partner, who's like an awesome multi-sport coach, and happened to win it every time it happened.
Also a resident on the course.
Yeah, and someone who lives on one of the islands that we'll be going
on.
He lives Little Diamond. So I thought that was super helpful. So what we did to help everyone, if you look at the show notes, we have an annotated leg by leg breakdown of every single leg, long course and short course. Mm-hmm. Again, the short course starts on
Long Island.
So if you're starting on the short course, essentially it's like R7 on our breakdown. You can just go from there and you can get everything. But we thought there was a couple sections that were worth getting a little
extra attention,
deep diving a little bit more. So we asked Lars to chime in on a couple sections.
Yes, so Lars was cool enough to cut a couple of these for us. So the first one you're going to hear here is about Cow Island, which is for the long course folks. After your swim 5, it's your run 6 across, and then following into swim 6. So here's Lars with a little bit more details about Cow Island. Moo.
Once you're across the Great Diamond Island, we're staying on the shore side, running all the way up to Diamond Cove. This is a beautiful island that has a lot of tree cover, and there are residents there. There's a beautiful area inside of Diamond Cove with a lot of old. It was the general barracks during some of the military fortifications that were there. And so a lot of those buildings have been converted into hotel properties and residences. But we have started the race there in the past, and it's a really cute island, fantastic, with a fantastic restaurant right at the ferry dock as well. So we've made our way over to a private residence who's been kind enough to open up their property for us, and we dipped down onto their property for the swim entrance over to Cow Island. And the swim over to Cow Island is a short one. It's only a couple hundred yards. And on Cow Island is managed by the Ripple Effect, which is one of our preferred charities that we contribute to. And what Ripple Effect does is they provide programs for youth in the state of Maine, and so outdoor programs. So there could be potentially some campers who are on the island, which means folks, some youth kids cheering you on and such. But Ripple Effect has also been awesome in providing kayak and boat support in and around Cow Island. There's a rope that gets you up a fairly short but steep rocky section getting on to Cow Island. So you'll have to go one by one and pull yourself up that rope to get onto the island. But once on the island, it's a short half-mile run, all on trails, all on single track, and it takes you around to the backside of that island.
Great. So you got those additional details. Now, another area we decided to double click on a little bit more is one of our kind of favorite parts, and you'll hear a lot of people talk about it if you haven't done this race before. It's Vale Island.
Yeah.
It's only a half mile, and we'll just say learn from our mistakes. When we first took this race to task, or before this race took us to task, we were like, oh, a 5 mile run? Half-mile run, no problem. We got this thing, and then we show up, and it's just boulders.
It was
rock climbing, basically.
It was definitely the fun island for sure, but yeah, it's precarious. So we asked Lars to give us just a little bit more insight into what folks can expect on Vale Island.
Vale Island is one of the most unique islands that we definitely have on this course. It's an island of rock, boulders, and in the middle, tons of poison ivy. On this run, it's one of the most easy to mark and to mark for us. We don't. The reason is because you have to stay around the perimeter of the island, and it becomes intuitive the path that you're going to take. And so it's one of those where you're certainly not going to win the race on Vale Island by going fast through it, but you will certainly ruin your day and lose the race if you are clumsy or aren't paying attention. These are big boulders. These are trails that are going to require some teamwork, pulling one another up, taking care of one another out there. It's very short. It's only half a mile long, but again, you're not going to be able to run any portions of Vale Island. It's more going to be a kind of a power hike / scramble.
We're going to be excited for Vale Island. We know you'll enjoy it there.
Yeah.
The last bit that we wanted to touch on is a net new island for this race, Schabebank Island, which is where it features actually the longest run of the day and 2 shorter swims, and it's where the finish is. So
yeah, brand new finish
on the shipyard. So hear from the race director, Lars Finanger, as he walks you through Schabebank Island.
That's a short swim between Little and Big Schabebank Island, but it's a ripper of a current, and so a very challenging one. But once onto Big Schabebank Island, even though this is the last island of the day, this is where we get the running legs out of our suitcase and put them on, and it's a 4.25 mile run. Actually a new run this year, compliments of one of our island residents on Schabebank for bringing the trail system on Schabebank up to our attention. But we've integrated trails this year, so we'll be running up the middle of the island. We'll actually come back down to the southern part of the island, and then a couple new shorter swims, a series of 2 swims and 2 runs, which will take us to the finish line. So on Schabebank, it's going to be 1 big run, a couple smaller swim and runs, and the race is going to finish off with about a half a mile run on a sandy beach. You are welcome for that. Your legs will thank you. And it's going to finish at the Schabebank Island Boatyard, which we're really thrilled about. The Baleska family has been phenomenal supporters of ours in the past, and for the last couple of years, they've told us about the Boatyard property, which they said would make a fantastic finish line. And so we're just totally ecstatic to be able to have the race finish at the Schabebank Island Boatyard this year.
All right, so I think with all that, I mean, I think we've given people a pretty big overview of what the course can look like, but Lars is not done yet. there's more he wants to share with us. So we're just gonna cue him up and let him give us one last little bit of knowledge for everyone to listen to.
Well, no doubt Chris and Chipper have gone over the distances that you'll be facing on the long and the short course races, but just to implant those numbers in your psyche, the long course is going to have a total of 17 miles of running and just over 7,400 meters of swimming, so that's 4.65 miles of swimming. And for the short course athletes and the solo athletes, you're going to be running 10 miles and you're going to be having 3,400 meters of swimming, 2.1 miles. Folks, you're going to get it all here. A lot of people have likened this Casco Bay course to kind of a miniature version of the World Championships for Ödyssey in Sweden, which it's about a month before the World Championships over there in Sweden, and so many Americans, especially who have gone over to do that race, have said it's the perfect preparation race in advance. The course characteristics are very similar. You've got a lot of slick rock. The water is cold. A lot of currents, changing tides. A lot of island roads, single track. You name it. Island residents really make each of these islands so unique. The character of this race is something that a lot of the athletes speak to after the race. Salt water for most of it, and so you're going to want to make sure to apply extra layers of that body glide before the race, and just have a great time. This was as we said, the first island-to-island swim run in America. We're going on 5th year, and we couldn't be happier to have you guys back. So looking forward to seeing you out there on race day.
Well, if that doesn't have you super stoked,
I'm super stoked.
This race, but
can we register twice?
I mean, I'm sure we could if we really wanted to. But if that's not enough, so now we know what the course is. But I think we should spend some time talking about training and tactics. So, as everyone's mentioned, this is a quote unquote swim heavy course. So it's going to favor people who've been swimming. So it's about five-ish miles of swimming when it's all said and done. The running
technical
is mostly
swimming, if you will.
Technical swimming. The running is mostly flat and mostly non-technical, except for Vale Island. So, everyone we talked to said the best way to prepare for this event is to swim. John Stevens, awesome swim coach himself, recommends doing race simulations to make sure that you're ready for some of those long swims with the short runs in between. So in your practice, make sure that you're hitting some of that mileage, some of that yardage.
Longer sustained swims. Also, if you go back, we can we'll link it in the show notes as well. The Black Sheep Endurance Project, they gave a nice little long set there for some swims like 10 by 200 with your gear on, and I think that would be a pretty good. That's a 2,000 yard main kind of set that I think will give you those long kind of endurance that you're going to need on your shoulders for the totality of all the swimming in this race.
Yeah, and if this is your first swim run and you're thinking of using paddles, please not
start now.
Yeah, please not have the race be the first time you're busting out paddles, because it's gonna be
your
smoke
shoulders
show.
Are gonna be blasted.
We're gonna see the smoke signals. So training, take it seriously. This is a serious race. It's a lot of fun, but hey, the more trained up you're on the swimming,
the more fun you're
gonna have. That's it. Now, the other part of this race is race strategy, right? So because we're just a couple average Joes over here, we brought a team that has raced Casco Bay every year, and they're literally the most dominant mixed team in the United States. In the history of swimrun in the U.S., they are the best mixed team.
The tip top.
Period. So, and of course, we're talking about our friends Bronwyn and Greg from Team Boston Wet Sox. They're super stoked to do this race again, and we asked them to share how they would approach executing a race plan for Casco Bay. So here they are, the Boston Wet Sox.
Hello, this is the Boston Wet Sox, Greg and Bronwyn Dirksen, here to give you our course strategy for the Ödyssey Casco Bay Islands swim run.
So we've done this race every year that it has happened, and we are very excited to return in 2021. We were a little sad about 2020.
Very sad.
Very sad. So again, super pumped to be able to race this again. So overall race strategy, very simple, but you start moderate and you build. again, it sounds very simple, but it's helpful to remind yourself of this when you get kind of in the heat of the moment at that start.
So due to COVID protocols, we don't know if it's going to be a time trial start or a mass start, but this can affect your race strategy. For a time trial start, it's easy to run your own race. You don't have other people around you, but that means that it's harder to keep track of other people. For a mass start, on the other hand, you know where everybody is, but it's easy to get swept up. Just remember, in a mass start, run your own race. You're not there to run the other person's race.
And then always have a leader. So the leader plan is going to be who leads the swims and who leads the runs. For us, Greg leads the swims and leads the runs usually, but this is completely team dependent. You might switch off on the swims, might switch off on the runs, but use a tether. So this is one of our biggest recommendations. Once we started using a tether, we really found that we kind of took off. It was just so much easier to race together and be happy with our races.
Yeah, so on the swim, our overall strategy is that I lead the swim. Maybe you want to think about the stronger swimmer leading the majority of the swims, and for that person, I pull like hell on our swims, and that gives Bronwyn a chance to rest, to recover a little bit, and then hit the runs hard. When you're leading, the biggest thing is sighting. You want to be able to pick something that you can sight in the water through foggy goggles. So, the brightest flags are never quite enough. Pick out a big, obvious landmark. Maybe that's a big hill against the sky, or a bright sand beach, or a funny tree. Whatever it is, make sure you can see it when you can't quite see very well through your goggles.
I'm not resting on the swims, by the way. Just FYI.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
For the run strategy, again, the tether is just super key. It's going to be an excellent nonverbal guide on how your teammate is doing, whether you need to slow down, whether you can speed up if it's if it's going slack. We've definitely heard teams in the past that had some relationship fights at the beginning of races when the other teammate was running past them without a tether. So the tether and how you use the tether is going to be a little bit terrain dependent. So on roads and gravel trails, the leader can definitely pull it a little taut. Don't pull anybody over. But on downhills or more technical terrain, definitely be conscious not to yank. And there are some very technical sections where if you're not very comfortable with the tether, you might consider taking it off. So Vale Island, which we'll talk about a little bit later, might be an example of this. Very technical, and it might be a little scary for somebody to use a tether on.
So general course notes, like we said, we've done this every year, and every year it's been different. Just keep in mind that Swimrun is an adventure. You don't know exactly where that adventure is going to take you, so just enjoy the ride. The course is set last minute by necessity, and so expect it to change a little bit. The map that's on the website right now is going to change a little bit, and the distances are going to be off. So the biggest key here is to just mind your surroundings. If you see water coming, there's probably a swim coming up. If the course is windy, your distance on your watch is going to be a little bit different. Jeff Cole used to love to say that this is not a triathlon. The distance is not prescribed. We're out there enjoying nature, moving over terrain. It's going to be different. And just enjoy the adventure.
So for the run course, there is basically everything you would want to run on in this run course. There are pavement roads, gravel, sand, rocks, fun single track trails through the woods. So don't get complacent for the good or the bad. No matter what, the terrain is going to change shortly. If you're in a bad spot, you might end up on a road pretty soon. And if you're on a road, just be ready that you could be running on a trail in a second.
So some highlights, some islands that are in the course. Every year we've done it so far. We'll start with Peaks and Long. Those are two of the bigger islands. There's a lot of road and single track on these islands, so you can work the roads, run hard. Maybe pull that tether a little bit tauter. On the trails, just keep your heads up. The trails are windy. The Peaks Island Preserve can be very confusing. So just look for the trailblazes, and if you see one, whether you're leading or in the back, just shout it out. Make sure you guys are going the same way. We've gone off course before. Just keep your heads up.
House Island is one that has been, I think, in every race. So House Island is short, but the first half is very technical. So lots of rocks, technical boulders, and they're slippery as well because it's usually tidal dependent. And then the second half is really fun because you get to run by a fort.
It's beautiful, beautiful island. Vail, I think, is the highlight of the race. It's super technical. There are big boulders, there are small boulders. You've got to climb over these rock walls. It's great. And all the while, you've got like the Atlantic just pounding on the rocks. I love it every year. It's super, super technical. It's going to be about half a mile, and it's going to take you 15 minutes, but it's amazing.
And so Schabebank, I don't know, something like that. That's the last island currently on the course. And there are 2 swims on it too, which is pretty cool. But that's also a mix of roads, single track, and you get some sand beaches in there as well. That's a cool island too. And the longest run of the day, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So for the swim course, it is Casco Bay, so expect that the water is going to be cold, but I've never found it shockingly cold. If it's a very cold and rainy day, you might want to wear your sleeves. So definitely bring them, but we personally never use them. But nevertheless, it's definitely worth it to bring them with you on the ferry and decide the morning of if you want to use them. It's again Casco Bay, so it's going to be salt water, which we've always found is a little worse on your neck burns and burns anywhere else than fresh water is going to be. So make sure you do whatever you can to kind of protect your neck. A little bit later in the race, it can really start to annoy you.
So Casco Bay has some of the largest tidal swings in North America and certainly the U.S. So that means that at some point during the race, you're going to face a rip and current. And it probably means that the currents you face at the beginning of the race are going to be different from the currents you face at the end of the race. So when you're on short swims, you can sort of look out over the water, check out where the boats are pointed, where the buoys are floating. Maybe there's some seaweed you can see, and you can sort of tell where the water's flowing. On longer swims, it's a lot harder. So you just have to be mindful. When you're out in the middle of one of these long swims, if it feels like you're getting pulled, you probably are. So maybe you want to shoot a little higher or a little lower on the landing. You don't have to come out exactly at the flag. Just be mindful of what the currents are doing. Be ready for it, and use a tether. It's going to help.
Yes, definitely on the swims. So some final thoughts. Make sure you have a plan going into this, but don't be a slave to the plan. It can be a long day out there, and something is going to happen that wasn't part of your plan. Don't freak out. Just adjust, and you're going to have fun.
And if you get into a spot of bother, just remember your checklist. Nutrition, hydration, temperature, and pace, right? Have you had enough to eat? Have you drunk enough? Have you had enough electrolytes? Are you warm enough? Are you cool enough? And are you going the right speed for you, right? And just remember, this is fun.
This is fun. Have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are super excited to see everybody, to race in Casco Bay again. So good luck, everybody, with your training. We hope to have a beer with everybody after the race.
Good luck.
So, Chipper.
Pour me a cold one, Greg.
Are they not the best?
First round on Greg and Bronwyn, I think.
Are they not the best?
They are the best.
I love them.
I don't know how you don't love the Boston Red Sox, but just like what Bronwyn said at the end there, having a plan is great, but also plan on that plan going awry.
Yes,
at some point.
Exactly.
Just be ready for it.
Yes, and this is something I've said a lot on this show, but you have to learn to be comfortable dealing with ambiguity.
Absolutely.
For the distances, aid stations might not be exactly where you thought they were going to be. You need to be agile and be able to handle what's coming at you. And I think the way that Bronwyn and Greg summed it up, I think it's, that's what I'm going to do.
It's a masterclass.
I'm going to do what they say.
I'm doing that too.
Yeah. So with that, I think we've given people, there you have it, right? There
it is, folks.
Ödyssey Swimrun Casco Bay in its glorious nutshell.
It should be a lobster shell, I think, or a claw.
Lobster claw, like
claw?
In its big lobster claw. Sure,
in the claw part.
Yeah, dipped in butter.
Butter.
But anyway, so we hope to see a bunch of familiar and new faces in Maine. If you're on the fence, which we can't imagine anyone would be on the fence at this point. But if we've managed to convince someone who we haven't already managed to convince, use the code Löw Tide 15 and save 15% on your registration for Casco Bay and every other 2021 Ödyssey event.
Yes, and we're always trying to improve these type of shows and our podcast in general, so we'd love to hear your feedback. Let us know what you think. You can shoot us the email lowtideboys@gmail.com. Of course, this all wouldn't be possible without the contributions of everyone, so we really wanted to give a final thank you once again to Lars Finanger, the race director, John Stevens as well, of the Ödyssey Swimrun crew, Matt Hurley of Black Sheep Endurance Project, and Bronwyn and Greg Dirksen of the Boston Wet Sox for their help in making this be as comprehensive and full gas as it is. So,
are you? I'm super stoked.
Is there anything beyond? I'm super stoked.
Like super duper.
I'm super duper stoked. I mean, I'm looking at my.
We're gonna have to get new stickers
We're gonna
made.
have to get new super stoked stickers for Casco Bay. So we'll see you all out there. And be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Löw Tide Böyz with the Z. We're looking to hopefully maybe get a little post-run brewery meetup or
Yes.
grab a beers with some people after.
Yes, the plan
Very
is
low-key,
we're going to be
very
hosting the post-race party.
Hosting but not funding.
Definitely not funding.
A very important note. We are not funding that party.
We will be not buying anyone drinks, and people can't buy us drinks. Or maybe they can.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we'll see. And if you want a funny,
see how the race goes.
If you want a funny picture, the last time after this race in 2018, promptly after crossing the finish line, I crushed 2 tall cans of some sort of new, East Coast IPA and was promptly napping on the ferry ride home in short order.
Yes.
And Chris was, like any good friend, snapped the photo.
Oh, of course.
So,
I had to.
We'll see you out there, Casco Bay 2021. Thank you for listening to the Löw Tide Böyz, a Swimrun podcast. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review on iTunes if you're so inclined.
You can also sign up for a newsletter at lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at the Löw Tide Böyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, drop us an email at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Writing Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swimrun activities, hobbies, and other bullshit we do.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
And then a run.
And then another swim.
Then another run.
And then another swim.
And then run to the finish line. And just keep going until you're done.
Yes, or
until
run
you
to
cross the finish line.
Or run to the car.
Or run to your car.
Somewhere. Just keep running.
Peace.